So we're joined here with John J. Grande, a certified financial planner with Grande Financial Services and a longtime contributor with Ophthalmology Times Money Matters column. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So, John, these are definitely unprecedented times we're living in. What do you suggest to help doctors get through this? First, emotionally, I want to talk a little bit about that, and then also financially. So I know you wrote a blog addressing the emotional aspects of that. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I've been working with ophthalmologists for 30 years, and it's been a privilege. And so I want to maybe preface this before I get started with the fact that, as a specialty in our professional, in our medical profession, they are really among the brightest and the best as far as I'm concerned. They don't need me to tell them how to feel or what to do or how to think, obviously. I've been friends and close. I've had very intimate relationships with many of them. And, it's almost humbling sometimes to be with them because they're that smart. But I get to work with ophthalmologists all over the country, hundreds of them. And so I get to see firsthand from so many. And I happen to be a real student of ontology, which is the study of being. So I'm always interested in what is it that makes some people happy and others not? Because I've noticed there's never a correlation between how much money somebody has and how happy they are. So it's very easy to see that many people are suffering needlessly, and you wonder why, right? And it's usually thoughts, it's usually a thinking process. So if anything has ever come along in our lifetimes that would challenge that feeling of well-being or the happiness or peace that we might have inside, this is it for sure. I can, all I can do is share my experience and tell you how I feel and how I handle it as far as the emotional side goes. And I find that there doesn't have to be a correlation between circumstances and how you are feeling. You can have things going wrong everywhere, and you can still have a sense of joyfulness, a sense of peace. And I think that's what I'd like to try to contribute, because I've had so many phone calls. You get so many phone calls at a time like this because people start, their survival is threatened in every way. It's threatened financially, their loved ones are threatened, and their own life is threatened. So if anything's going to, trigger something, it's going to be an unprecedented event like this. So I guess my advice, or it's not my advice, but just sharing what I would think, okay, is that first realize that this too shall pass, as recessions have many times before. I agree this is different from what we've had experienced in the past. It's happened faster, it's deeper, but I believe that our country's ingenuity, the joint efforts, our brilliant scientists and doctors, the support of major corporations, we will restore things back to normal. And even today, I was watching the news, and there were some scientists on there, and I mean, they've got stem cell research going on that looks very promising. They now can actually see the virus, and they can make it interact with existing approved drugs. So I think that before, I'm not a doctor, obviously, I really, I'm not qualified to talk about this, but my sense, and perhaps I'm a little optimistic about it, is that they will come through like we always have. This country has always come through, and our brilliant physicians will come through. So we're learning so much from this. I wouldn't even be surprised if we wind up through this finding maybe cures for other diseases. So that could happen. So once a cure and a vaccine are discovered, we can get back to our normal lives. And it kind of depends how long this downturn lasts as to when a recovery will come. My educated guess is we won't be out of this for 6 months. I think in the fall, late fall, fourth quarter for sure, you'll see a rebound. But the stock market doesn't work that way. The stock market looks into the future and it reacts in the present for the future. So if you were to wait until good news came out, let's say you thought, well, I'll sell out of my positions now, and then I'll get back in when the market goes up. Well, as soon as I see good news, it's really too late. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
As fast as this has come down in the last 3 weeks or so, that's how fast it's going to go up. It may not go back up to 30, near 30,000, but the next 5,000 points will be within a week, most likely. My guess, it's only my guess, right? We have some brilliant people out there in our industry with lots of experience, and most of them are scratching their heads because we've never seen this before, And in the way I'm talking to, I'm not minimizing or trying to sugarcoat the horror that is going on right now. I mean, you can't escape that, and you can't put your head in the sand. This is real and it's happening, but how much is it going to cost you emotionally and financially if you don't keep your head about you, right? So that's what I'm looking for, and this is what I talk to my clients all day, every day, and this is what I guess I get paid for, is to not allow them to make emotional decisions that they're gonna be sorry for later on. So my guess is, again, that the first good news that comes out, the markets are gonna get the first leg almost immediately. We just have to wait and see how long it takes companies to rehire, get back up to speed again. So there is going to be, I think, a lot of pent-up demand that's going to go into spending. And we know that the government now is accommodating, right? They have 3 different stimulus or rescue packages. The 4th one is coming up. We've never seen anything like this before. This is amazing. And this could actually have it could have positive benefits as we go ahead. So maybe something we've never seen about. Money is so cheap. There's so much money going out, being pumped into the economy. So another thing on a personal level is that you should remember you're not always going to feel this way. Not the way you do right now. So when someone is fearful or discouraged or disappointed, we all have a tendency to believe we will always feel this way. And that's not true. It will pass. If you think back in your life, it always has passed. And you will be happy again one day, and you will be sitting out having dinner in a restaurant again one day, and you'll be back in your practice again one day. This is it's almost unthinkable. I have ophthalmologists who have closed their offices and laid off up to 85, 100 people, furloughed them, maybe not get a paycheck for 6 months. It's very scary. That's very, very difficult. But again, how you handle it mentally, emotionally, is how much it costs you physically, right? I mean, the mind-body relationship is very strong. We all know that. So I think it's important not to panic at this point. So I strongly suggest that people look inside themselves for the peace and security, because that's the only place it really exists. It's never been out there. And this is perfect proof for it, right? So I also strongly recommend that although you keep up with what's happening on the news, don't binge out on negative reporting all day, because that's only going to depress you more. It's good to keep up on things, but I wouldn't spend the entire day watching the stock market or news on COVID-19. That's not going to do you much good, I think. So I understand that this is difficult, but not only on a personal level, but for our loved ones. And there's like a social stress. It's a social stress that that people around the entire world are dying and suffering. And it's something, it's very hard to get your arms around that, to realize that. And so you have to actually find a way to handle that. It's okay to be compassionate, but not to a point where it makes you sick, Mm-hmm. So and again, I'm not minimizing this, all right? And I understand what's happening, but as I said in the article that you mentioned before, that this can be actually a great opportunity for personal growth. When you find out that you can handle any external circumstance because you're calm inside, it gives you a whole new freedom. when this is over, you go out into the world and you feel, wow, I can handle anything. I got through this and I didn't panic. I didn't lose my head. I didn't get sick. And it makes you a better person. And then I even think it allows you or gives you the space to be even happier with what you had before. So it, maybe this cloud has a silver lining.
Mm-hmm.
There are parts of this crisis that remind me a lot of World War II. Except this time our citizens are dying on our homeland, which they didn't back then, back in the 40s. But the entire population, they all got together, they pitched in, they recycled materials, purchased war bonds, they were working in war industries. I know my father left his business and he was working in a factory making ammunition. People even brought their skillets and their irons and frying pans to centers because they melted them and they made them into ships and into Jeeps and whatever. I see the same thing going on in America right now. It's inspiring. I think it's just a beautiful thing when whatever it is inside of us that gets lost in our daily life, all of a sudden blossoms again. And we realize that we all care for one another, we all love one another, and we all want to help one another. And that's what's happening right now. And so even in the horror, there is the beauty. I think there is, right? So, we won that war. And I think we're going to win this war too. I know we're going to win this war. As for your finances, I know everyone's interested in that right now. Right? Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just curious about the financial aspect of it, how to help doctors get through this financially with their practices.
Absolutely. And in a moment, I'll even tell them that there's some help available to them that they should be aware of. Okay. So as for finances, that is what I do for a living, right? So there are some of the doctors have been in the stock market for decades. So what they've seen is they've seen their portfolios go up and lots of profits, and then they've seen it come down. And so they've lost some of their profits. Other people who have been putting money in more recently have not only seen profits go away, but they've seen their money reduce. But no matter who it is, just in a few weeks, people they've experienced it depends how much money you had in the stock market, but it could be up to 30 or 40% of a decline. And that can get to a lot of people. I get phone calls from people. I'll discuss that later. What I'm hearing from the ophthalmologists that call my office. So for those, I'd say that if you have these losses, they're paper losses. Right now, the market's down. You look at your statement, which maybe you shouldn't, but if you do, you'll see that you have a paper loss. If you don't sell, it stays a paper loss. If you sell, it becomes a real loss. So what you can do, I think is a good strategy right now, is to harvest tax losses. So if you have a portfolio, let's say, for compliance reasons, I can't really say any stocks or indices or whatever, but if you have a portfolio, if you sell it out today and there's a 30% loss, and the same day you take it and you move that money over into another similar investment, two things happen. One is you actually get that tax loss, which later on will equate into money in your pocket, because now when you have other gains or income, you get a reduction in your income tax. So it turns into a good thing. But if you moved over, and when the market goes back up again, and I said when, not if, when the market goes back up again, you gain back all of your value. So now you have the same value, but now you have all of these tax losses that you can carry forward forever and use those. So that would be a sensible thing to do. And I'm not a tax specialist, so I would suggest that anybody listening to this, talk to your CPA or your tax specialist to just make sure that that's the right thing for you to do. Mm-hmm. So that's what we can do as far as tax losses. You can do a couple of other things. I think reposition is very important. By the way, in this moving from one investment to another, if you stay out of the original investment for 31 days, you can then go back over into that original investment again if you wanted to, and that you avoid what's called the wash rule. But you can't get out of it and get back in the next day, and you can't use a tax loss event, but if you wait, then you can. So that's important. So far, the reactions of my clients, as we just
I was curious what the reaction has been from your clients so far.
Well, that is a great question because it's all over the place, obviously. Some doctors, they completely trust their planning, they stick with the plan, and they say, we've been through ups and downs, 2000, 2008, whenever it is, but they don't mind staying the course. We are making adjustments if it's necessary, but actually most of them are staying very calm and collected. There's always the one or two that panic to a point of being irrational and losing all logic and just selling out. And then trying to time the market to get back in. No, I've never met anyone in all my years in the business that can time the market. Mm-hmm. So they have it's just, it's kind of, you don't want to make any decision based on panic ever. You don't make good decisions that way. Mm-hmm. So we have many conversations with our clients, mostly as hand-holding, calming them down a little bit, showing them that everything is going to be okay, keeping the big picture in mind, and again, mostly stopping them from making wrong decisions. When people have a plan, it's easy to ascertain the immediate impact of a downturn like this, because you can do what-if scenarios right away and say, okay, well, if we do this, this is how it's going to turn out. If we don't, this is how it's going to turn out. So that's pretty much what the reaction has been. It's been people staying calm and staying the course.
Yeah. What about someone who just retired? I mean, that has to be very stressful for them.
Yes. It truly is. It truly is. We're currently working with several doctors who either just retired or some of them are going to be retiring within the next week or two. And this is, I have to admit, it's a difficult time for them. They had done so well, accumulated so much money. It is not the ideal situation. You can't sugarcoat this at all. What we do is we suggest is that when somebody retires, that you break your expenses into two sections. One are essential. The essential would be things that must be paid, like your mortgage payments, tax payments, food, car payments, insurance, those types of things. With the way we like to set it up with our clients, is what we'd like to do is we like to match all essential expenses with lifetime income. This takes all the stress, all the pressure off people. They know that no matter what happens to the market, up to that, they know that income comes in like a paycheck, and they know they can pay essential taxes. They're essential expenses. For the others, which are non-essential, such as vacation, gifts and donations, and whatever it is, we make that a percentage of the portfolio. So it may be 1% or 2% of the portfolio. Now, as the portfolio goes up, well, actually, they can increase their non-essential expenses. But if it goes down, it sort of automatically puts the brakes on overspending, because now that percentage is you have a smaller portfolio, so that percentage is a smaller amount of money. If you don't do that, what happens is the amount of money you're taking out of your portfolio, as the portfolio goes down, if you're taking out 4%, which would really be, in my estimation, the most you would want to take out, that 4% becomes 5 or becomes 6. And then what happens is you start taking principal out.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a spiraling, spirals down where you're using principal, and that particular percentage keeps going up. You don't want to be in that position. It's better to not do that. Mm-hmm. So really, a decreased portfolio in retirement means maybe for a little while, a little bit of a decreased, I think maybe decreased expenditures. You have to watch it. And see, when you have a plan, this is the thing. If you don't have a plan, you're always guessing. How much should I spend? How much should I save? How much more, how much should I cut my expenses? Well, if you have a plan, you just put all those numbers in, it comes out, you go, all right, well, look, you were spending X amount. Now, for the next 3 months, only spend this amount. But otherwise, you don't know that. You can hurt yourself. So I think that's a very difficult situation. There's a name for that. It's called the sequence of return risk. And I guess a layman's term would be just really bad luck.
Yeah.
Because if you're like at your young age, right, when you're putting money into the market now and you have a longer time horizon, you almost like the market to come down because you're buying stocks cheaper, right? And you know they're going to go up, so you're dollar cost averaging. So no matter, it's going to serve you. But when you're taking money out of a portfolio, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so this is not good for people who are just getting ready to retire or just retired. But I'm sure they get through it because I think it's going to be short-lived. I think we're only looking at maybe 6 months of this. As soon as we don't have to social distance anymore. And I would think here we are in our houses. It brings a whole new definition to home office. We are in our homes and this is our office.
For sure. So, okay. I mean, that's really unfortunate, but let's hope everything works out for them. Are there any proactive strategies or advice that you might recommend for doctors right now during these volatile times?
Yeah, actually, of course. It's funny. It seems like that every cloud seems to have a silver lining. And so there are things that you can do now. The government has been very accommodative, for sure. But as I mentioned before, the tax harvesting is very important. Rebalancing right now, it would be counterintuitive because let's say you have a 60-40, you have 40% in equities and 60% in fixed income bonds, right? Now, all of a sudden, you only have 20% in equities, but in 80% in bonds because the equities have gone down. If you rebalance now, what you have to do is you have to take money out of the fixed income and now bring that 20% back up to 40%. And you're just like, I don't want to do that because the market just went down and I don't want to lose more money, right? But that would be the right thing to do because then you can make that up when the market goes back up again. You'll make up your losses better that way. So that's one good thing to do, I believe. And again, you want to check with a tax, with a tax attorney before you or CPA before you make those decisions. Very important one about proactive is that there's something called the PPP, and that's the Paycheck Protection Program, and it's part of the CARES, which is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It provides loans for small businesses with 500 or fewer employees. These loans can be used for payroll, rent, mortgage, utilities, and they're actually very simple to complete. I know because I just completed one for myself. Why wouldn't I? Because they're forgivable loans. As long as you use the money for employees and expenses, you don't have to pay it back. And you can borrow up to $1 million. So my suggestion really is that the doctors go and they check into the SBA, Small Business Association, and then get an application and find out what's available to them because it's, there is the potential forgiveness of a loan like that's a gift. It's a gift, and things will get back to normal again. And this way, you can keep your people on your payroll. You don't have to worry about losing them. So it's very, very important to know what the care rules are, what that rescue program is. But I think everyone's going to be okay. And again, I always look at life as a learning experience. And life's always beautiful. It just depends how you look at it.
All right. Well, thank you. Some very helpful advice, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.